G'day everyone, welcome to this lunchtime update from Severe Weather Chasers on a potential chase day today. So we sometimes will go through and issue these at lunchtime on days that we might be chasing. So today we might be chasing. So basically what it is just a look at the thunderstorm indices and then suggesting locations as to where we can go, potential thunderstorm hotspots, that sort of thing. So basically, according to one model run from XSR this morning, we see, courtesy of Weather Zone, we see the fairly good potential for thunderstorm activity over the tablelands and the northern goldfields, upper Flinders, or the northern parts of that, northeastern parts of that. We see storm activity tapering off in and around the Townsville area. However, there is still a good chance there of the Herbert region, as well as the Central Coast Whitsundays area all the way north to about Bowen. We see the potential for thunderstorm activity, and then obviously that thunderstorm activity gets heavier and stronger as we head further south out of our region. Looking at the European model's take on the situation, and we can see that they're predicting also thunderstorm activity to the west-northwest of Cairns. This is to 1 p.m. today, and then they're predicting some very isolated convective showers in the Burdekin and even parts of the Herbert, but very isolated and weak. And that activity continues to increase as we head further south towards the Mackay and then further south towards Rocky region. That's at 1 p.m. 4 p.m. we see basically a line forming. We see some drier air here over the Herbert Burdekin, and we see storms continuing on the tablelands between 1 and 4. Between 4 and 7, the storms on the tableland seems to ease off. However, we see this really marked area of thunderstorm activity developing between Mackay and Rocky, and so we're looking at some fairly intense activity in there, and also further inland as well. So we're looking at that area. Still the potential for showers here in the Burdekin and the Herbert region. 7 to 10 p.m. we see a marked increase in potential shower and storm activity over the Burdekin and pushing into the coastal parts of the Herbert. And we also see continuing thunderstorms in through here, through the west of the central coast Whitsundays area, and we continue to see thunderstorms developing towards the Rocky region. Between 10 and 1, we see those storms pushing offshore near the Burdekin, and then we also see continuation of just general shower and storm activity. Between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. this morning, most of the stuff has pushed offshore. There's still some good storm activity around Rocky. The stuff around the Townsville Burdekin region is now pushed offshore. Between 4 and 7, we do get some showers inland, probably some residual light rain over a very broad area. And 7 to 10 a.m. once again we see the development of just some convective showers, possibly a little earlier tomorrow than we saw today. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. we see that activity pushing towards Mackay and extending as far north as probably just to the south of Townsville, but that's 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. any shower and storm activity, residual stuff, should be in the inland southern Burdekin or the northern Central Coast Whitsundays area. The GFS outlook for rain over the next 24 hours suggests very similar type of situation that we just looked at, where we get some good thunderstorm activity west of Mackay, some good thunderstorm activity just to the west of Rocky, all the way through to Emerald, and tapering off in the Herbert Burdekin. There is still the potential for some decent storm activity up here towards the inland Herbert, and then also fairly good potential for storm activity over the tablelands. Bureau of Meteorology, this is this morning's temperature trace for Townsville. We can see a total value of 42, which is marginal when it comes to thunderstorm development. We've got lifted indices of -5. However, be aware that that value is based on the fact that we can achieve a surface temperature of around about 37 degrees. So it's not what we're expecting to see. So we're expecting to see more around 33, 34. We basically need to get to 37 degrees to escape what we call a cap or an inversion, so the clouds will actually form. Once we can get that temperature, clouds will be free to rise a long way up into the atmosphere. There is enough moisture in the atmosphere to allow thunderstorm activity to develop, and we should see thunderstorm activity develop and push towards the coast based on these winds coming from the southwest and the west. So any storms that do form should push towards the coast. Our higher level winds, so once a storm forms, and the anvil may be pushed from the northwest towards the southeast or the west towards the east. But our storms in general should be pushing southwest and northeast about 15 knots. Courtesy of the Brisbane Storm Chasers, if we take a look at the GFS forecast for instability today, we see that the Cairns area has a fairly limited instability there at 1 p.m. Townsville, a lot of instability just off the coast. Now that, and also Mackay just inland. Now what we see with the instability is that stuff off the coast pushes in towards the coast of the Burdekin and the Whitsundays, and also the stuff around Mackay sits there. So we're going to see enhanced values of instability in there. We also see an increase in instability at 4 p.m. in the inland parts of the Tablelands area. If we continue on to 7 p.m, we can see a peak in instability here over the Burdekin and the Whitsundays area, and also pushing all the way north into the Herbert region, and then all the way south into just west of Mackay. So this entire region looks extremely unstable. When we combine that value with what we expect to see in terms of potential energy available for thunderstorm development, we see a huge amount of potential energy in this inland Burdekin area, and so this area is looking like it will go off if we can break the cap. And this is the biggest issue, is if we can break a cap, the place will go off. If we don't break a cap, hardly a cloud will form in the sky. That's the key with any storm chase, any good storm chase day. It's so close between a hit and a miss. So whether today is going to be a hit or a miss will depend very highly on how hot things get at the surface in here. The sweat index tells us whether we're going to be seeing severe thunderstorms in the area, and really we need a value in the high 200s before we start paying any real attention to it. So the fact that we've got 220 in this entire area here isn't really suggestive of massive severe storm potential. This value is potential instability, and potential instability is basically how quickly the air could rise, potentially, if we can break a cap and if other conditions are met. And so we can see that there's a really big peak in instability to the west of Mackay, or potential instability, I should say, to the west of Mackay, all the way up to the Burdekin, but really anywhere to even as far north as Townsville is looking at extreme instability values if we can break the cap. And that's the big if. If we can break the cap, we can see the potential for explosive thunderstorm development, particularly later on this afternoon and into the evening. These are our total totals values when the balloon went up. Total totals is basically just an overall indication of whether we're going to see, or whether we have the chance to see storms or not. We really need the regions inside this 44 boundary to see storms. So at 10 a.m. we had enough instability there overall to see storms. By 4 p.m. today, we're going to see big instability area all through this region, and then by 7 p.m, which seems to be quite a hot spot time, we continue to see a lot of instability in here overall. So what's the chances of seeing a supercell? Well, very small today. There's not much rotation in the atmosphere. Remember, a supercell is a rotating thunderstorm. Very small chance of actually seeing a rotating thunderstorm today. Getting up to 20%, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to that value. The one big thing that might limit storms today is the amount of moisture available in the atmosphere. So this is at 10 a.m. The moisture available less than a kilometre up. We see this little dry patch that's just popping in through into the Herbert Burdekin area, but we see this very moist patch coming into the Central Coast Whitsundays, and even this part here of the southern Burdekin, extreme southern Burdekin. We've also got heaps of moisture up here towards Cairns. Now, if we change that and look at 4 p.m. see how things have changed, you can see a very dry patch of a drier patch of air coming into the Herbert Burdekin. So any storm activity that happens in the Herbert Burdekin especially will be quite coastal, based on that dryness of the atmosphere. If we continue till the hotspot time of 7 p.m, and we've got nice moisture in through here, nice moisture in on the Tablelands, still lacking moisture in the Herbert Burdekin. So that's going to limit the potential for storms to develop anywhere north of, say, Ayr or Home Hill because of this drier air. Here's the potential at 1 p.m, the moisture levels at 1 p.m. at 3 kilometres above the surface of the Earth, and we've got you can see here the wind directions as well, so you can see that storms This is their primary steering for influence here in northern Queensland is at 700 to 500 hectopascals. So this is the 700 hectopascal level. So we can see there's enough moisture there at 1 p.m. But if we have a look what happens at 7 p.m, a huge increase in moisture through here in the mid-levels. So that could be the catalyst for isolated showers and storms later on this evening in the Herbert Burdekin, despite the fact that we don't have the crazy amounts of moisture that we need at the surface. This is the rainfall we're expecting between 1 and 4 p.m. according to the GFS model. Once again, all these GFS models are courtesy of Brisbane Storm Chasers, so please check them out to have access to all these cool charts. They're www.bsch.au.com, so it's bsch.au.com. And they will have all these charts there so you can peruse them at your own leisure. But basically we see a very, very weak low pressure system to the west of Mackay pushing in a reasonable feed of moisture just in this area, creating the enhanced thunderstorm potential between 1 and 4 p.m. And then if we fast forward another 3 hours to 4 and 7 p.m, we see this low still around. It's very weak though, it's not really a marked feature, but we still see the potential for showers and storm activity all through the inland parts here, just inland of the coast. Remember, anything too far to the west is going to be way too dry, especially in the Herbert Burdekin, and we continue to see the potential for storms over the tablelands and further to the northwest. Anyway, that's the convective wrap up for today. So we are looking at the potential for showers and storms today all through the region. The Herbert Burdekin potential is very limited by the capping inversion today, which will require temperatures of 36 or 37 degrees to beat, and we probably won't get that right on the coast, but we might get it just far enough inland for things to spark up. Remember, if it gets too hot too far inland, doesn't matter because it's too dry, so it's not going to do anything for us. So we need those 36, 37 degree temperatures just along this line here if Townsville's in with a chance of a storm. And look, most of the modelling is suggesting that Townsville is in line with a chance of a shower or storm sometime between 5 and sort of 1 a.m, 5 p.m. to 1 a.m, sometime in there. We are looking at the potential for shower or storm in the Townsville area itself. However, whether it hits, whether it hits the official rain gauge or not, you never know with storm activity. Alright, but that's the enhanced potential. We'll let you know on swxc.net if we are chasing. It will be a late start for us. If we are, it'll be probably after 5 p.m. So we'll let you know though. Thanks very much for watching. Talk to you tomorrow.